Welcome back to the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. Time for another installment of T Watts and TR, this time on a Thursday, April the 18th, 2024. Tim Watts right there, adorned in that Braves gear. He's pretty happy after the Bravos take care of business against those cheating ass Astros. What about it, Tim?
Yeah, I think that all Major League Baseball fans, but the Astros celebrate when they lose. So they are still. I like the energy. Baseball fans have not let them go. They'll be booing them this year.
Gosh, I mean, this is starting to look like a forever thing, with the Astros. I guess you kind of bring it on yourself. It's a situation that you're forced to deal with. But Tim, we got a lot to get into on the program today. We're going to get into some roster updates as it relates to both Alabama football and Alabama men's hoops. Hey, you know what else is coming up next week? Just seems
What's
like it's
that?
been overshadowed by all this portal stuff, right? I don't
Draft.
know if the NFL likes this that much. That now look in the cities, in hotbeds for the NFL, which is pretty much everywhere now, global. Still a
Sure.
lot of NFL draft talk, but maybe not as much for us as there's been in the past.
No, I don't know. I still like the draft. I think the there was nothing going on when there was the draft in previous years, and now it's just a small. I mean, you have baseball, you got your golf, you got F1, you got the portal,
College
basketball,
football, yeah,
basketball and football portal. You
free
got college
agency.
baseball, and for Alabama fans, it's a different time because everything's competitive. Baseball's competitive. Basketball's a hot name trying to fill a roster. Football's always been the hot thing. So there's a lot going on. Then if you like pro sports or if you like anything else, there's just so much going on. Um, and it was kind of, you kind of knew the top two or three guys, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
You kind of knew the top. So it kind of get past that point with Kayla. I still think there could be some drama with Drake May. I'm still curious to see what happens with JJ McCarthy because I'm convinced everybody's guessing. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
they're guessing what teams will do to get him is what I mean. Go
we're going
ahead.
to get into some draft stuff coming up as it
Yeah,
relates to Alabama players and some Washington players too, because as we talked about, looks to be a big crop for Kalen DeBoer's previous stop where the upcoming NFL draft is concerned. We'll get into the portal talk though, Tim. And on the football front, I guess there wasn't a worse kept secret than Caden Proctor bouncing back to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Still very important to get a player of his caliber back, especially at a value position and especially at a position where even with Proctor, you're going to have some questions about this Alabama offensive line.
yeah. I mean, you can't sleep on how big a deal this was. And again, because we do such a good job that in the media, BOL certainly does a good job of keeping people up to date. That the big moments are almost ruined because there's no surprise factor. But with Proctor, it had nothing to do with the media. I mean, he is not he has not hidden his intentions for a moment. Was very anxious to get back to Tuscaloosa, but it's a massive deal. If that came out of the blue, if that had just dropped with a Hayes Fawcett, Pete Nako's edit that Caden Proctor was going in the portal on Monday when it opened, or was that Tuesday? Whenever it was, Tuesday when it opened, it would have been massive drama. And then if he ended up at Alabama, there'd have been a lot more celebration. But with that thing leaking out and you know, pretty pretty well covered at this stage, including Proctor himself covering it. But again, it's amazing. I mean, you get the guy, he'd have been the number one. Keep seeing the talk of Bama has to address their offensive line in the portal. They literally now have the number one offensive tackle in the portal and the number one offensive center that was in the portal. So that's two spots. I mean, that's two huge spots. You can't do much better. Now you're just waiting to see what else will be in there because kind of feel like like a firecracker fizzled out here, right? A lot of burn and then a poof so far nationally. We're expecting, it'll be anarchy, it'll be chaos. I'm like Brian Bender in Breakfast Club, but of course I'll talk it up. But it's just been a little bit more quiet nationally than many expected.
Always like a good John Bender reference early in the program. It seems to spur the momentum of the show.
It's a great movie.
But absolutely, you think about it to this point, knock on wood anyway, feels more like January had the sonic boom in that portal window than at least related to Alabama. to this point, and understanding there's going to be movement. There's still time. So this isn't over by any means. There's been some, talk here and there about a couple of different guys on this Alabama football roster. We're still in wait and see mode on that. But yeah, when you think back to January, and as you alluded to, when Caden Proctor dropped that, or that news dropped in January, that was pretty massive. Even if there was this undercurrent of thought or talk that, hey, this is a guy that could be on the move. Same with Caleb Downs back in January. I guess just in terms of magnitude during the early stages of this window, we haven't encountered that just yet.
No, and I think part of it is, you kind of, the SEC's probably the ones that are the busiest, in the portal, right? They've got their handcuffed. They got their hands behind their back because you can't go SEC from SEC. What do we hear throughout the recruiting process so often? I always wanted to play in the SEC. I dreamed of playing in the SEC. It's such a big lure. So it is kind of like it's not the same thing as it was in the early portal. For Bama, we didn't expect it to be super exciting. They'd already been through two portals. I mean, they're one of the few teams that got two full portals. Michigan had a portal, but it was limited by when people could enroll. So it was a little bit different than Alabama. But nationally, there's a lot of predictions about, that it would be wild and wide open. And it still could. I think there's still some spring games going on, right? Maybe kids come out of that and have their talks in one-on-one. But, a couple days into this, I've had so many messages and text and all. They were literally like, "Where is it at? What's happening?" I'm like, "Why would you talk it up? Like, why would you talk it up?" And I don't think they meant, again, I don't think they meant Alabama going, action in the portal, but they would like to know who's available for Alabama. So,
Yeah, you're
that,
right too. Even in the SEC, I think you still got 5 spring games maybe this weekend. Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Mississippi State. So be kind of weird too, right? If you're on one of those teams and maybe you're not clued in just yet as to your
yeah,
specific status on that roster, and here
yeah,
comes maybe a couple of guys at your position from the portal. That might be a tough way to have to get a clue, catch a hint
yeah.
there.
That's always that awkward moment where there's a player that's been on the team wearing a jersey, then the true freshman's also wearing it.
Yeah.
The top 50 guy. But yeah, I think we get these guys through the portal and they'll figure it out. And I don't think for some reason, I deal with a lot of this with basketball. I don't think they understand the portals is often a coach decision, a player decision, or a mutual decision. Everybody leaving's not unhappy. They could be happy. I think Rylan Griffin's an example. I think he liked Alabama. He had fun. I think he felt it was time for a change. He wanted a bigger role. Going to be a pretty loaded roster to have to see him get a much bigger role. So right now, I think that maybe he wanted to go to a place where he had a chance to shine a little bit more. And I don't think anybody faulted him. It's my understanding that, they shook hands and agreed to part ways. And, good luck to him. The same for Sam Walters. He's a guy that wants a bigger role next year. You can't blame him for wanting a bigger role. You can't. And it's just going to be harder with the guys Alabama has expected back, the guys they have coming in. So I do think there's a lot of people just blaming the players, which isn't fair. Everybody's like, these guys are leaving for more NIL, but it's not all more NIL. Everybody can't get,
No.
everybody can't get the bag, the huge, massive double Adidas pleated bag.
Yes, patent leather, old school
Yes, they can't get
Adidas
them
bag.
all. The extra sturdy.
Exactly. Yeah, and look, as you said, for a lot of these guys, it really is about maybe improving their place at another program. And look, you're not seeing a lot of these guys take step back or step down in terms of the type of programs that they're going to end up with. But we also have our comments here on the program, and we'll get into one of those right now. We're going to have a roundtable mailbag coming up later in the program, but Timothy checking in says, T. Watts, it looks like we are 6 to 7 deep on the D line. How many of those you think we will go after? And defensive backs, you think we are going to pull out of the portal if the right ones present themselves? Yeah, he said it. I think Timothy did. D line, you look at and you feel pretty good about. I guess a way I would phrase that too to you is if there's an area of this football team that would surprise you to see Alabama address via the transfer portal, what would that be? And then also the defensive back situation.
I think the defensive line is there. Yeah, I'd be surprised if they went after anybody. I feel like they're pretty deep there. They've got young guys. They've got older guys. They're going to lose two or three next year. A lot of depth. I love Timothy as a professional question answer because he said if the right ones present themselves, which is a big thing we always say. He's got to. They'll take another one, but it's got to be the right one. So my guy knows what he's doing out there. Defensive backs, I think that's an area for sure they'll want to attack. You're kind of hoping the market's a little more saturated so you don't have to pay the price. You don't have to pay the price of just having two three big time DBs into the portal or guys that you like, because they're going to be expensive because you've got every team in the country. I mean, how many teams don't need a defensive back?
or a
How many don't?
or a stud defensive lineman. I mean,
Yeah, that's like how many, I mean, any of these big name guys are going to go, but they're all
offensive
fight.
tackle.
So you
Yeah.
got so many guys fighting over a smaller market. That's another thing with Caden Proctor. Do not call, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing, because Caden definitely could have been a hot commodity. But I think they will go after one, maybe two guys in the portal that could help them in the secondary. But defensive line, I think they're good.
Yeah, as we just talked about, you still got programs like Oklahoma, Texas, and others that are wrapping up spring practice this week. So there could be a second wave here that's pretty big to ride where the latest portal
Right,
window is
right,
concerned.
right now, I think Tex made it.
Howdy,
Tex,
boys! Check out the lid. Oh, he's got that Bama online lid we
boom.
sent him. That
He
looks
just
pretty
told me
good.
last night on the round table, the BOL message board, he couldn't make the live ones.
Hey,
Welcome,
he made it
Tex.
today. Yeah, Tex.
We
Check.
missed it. I told him on the round table we missed him on Monday. So good for him to check in. Love the hat. Travis hooking it up.
Yeah, there you go. It
I
made
tell
it.
you that for
Made it to
Bama,
Texas.
for Bama, I think with the portal, I think obviously basketball is where most of our attention is right now. Aiden Holloway. Now I tell you what, that's been a debate. That's been a good
The Auburn point guard.
well, I think some get frustrated when you say, because some will say, I just want to take them to make Auburn mad. Oh, they're going to be mad. They're real mad. Like the meme. You mad? They are going to be pretty upset. And I don't blame them, because what's your worst fear? You leave your school, go to a rival school, and the guy becomes an All-American. You know what I mean? That's literally the worst fear. I don't think Bruce Pearl and them think that way, but I think the fans do. But he's coming in on official visit. He's a lead guard. He was really good in high school. Didn't have a great year at Auburn. I was watching his highlights and some of the old Auburn games and finding his shots. He seemed to have trouble like finding space and to get his shot. He's not a big guy, but he looked. I mean, he controls the ball well. He's a facilitator. And he certainly has the makings of a good shot. So maybe a system change could help, but he's expected on campus today, and it's a big visitor. I think Nate Oates likes him a good bit.
Yeah, and you had that for us on the roundtable there at BamaOnline.com, Tim. Another reason you should be there as well. If you aren't already, the roundtable at BOL, that's where you're going to find everything as it drops related to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Also, Alabama fans pining over a big,
Mm.
Tim. Cliff Omarui from Rutgers in the portal. And it looks like, again, according to some of your reporting and our reporting at BamaOnline.com, that visit could take place, or is at least a possibility to take place coming up this weekend.
Things move so much, with the visits planned and getting people in. Everybody's jockeying for him. But yeah, Cliff's one of the premier, elite big men in the country. I mean, they're valuable no matter what. I mean, you're going to see those guys highly recruited, but he's going to have a ton of offers. We think he's coming in that Sunday, Monday range into the weekend. Expected in. Again, that could change. It could be earlier, it could be later. The college guys visits just randomly pop up. You have a Thursday visit, you have a Sunday visit. It's just working around their big schedule. But yeah, I mean, the one thing Alabama went into that we knew they wanted to have, regardless of anything else on the roster, they wanted a lead guard, a point guard, somebody that could help facilitate, run the offense, bring the ball up the floor, push it, and they wanted a big guy. We heard the term. I mean, it got used a lot, but it's exactly right. Rim protector. That's exactly what they want. That's exactly what they need. It's what they didn't have last year. Again, Charles Bediako, we all know the story there. So Cliff would be a big one, but got to get on campus, got to fight off everybody, and put could the possibilities. I hate to tease because I know that it could come back to haunt you, but the possibilities of what the roster could look like next year. It is top five potential as an overall roster, maybe even as high as number one.
Yeah, with the coaching dominoes being what they are, you've seen even some 2024s of the elite nature kind of open things back up. And Liam McNeely out of Montverde Academy is one of those guys at the small forward position. And another report you had for us there at BamaOnLine.com involved Alabama's potential connection to McNeely, along with Kentucky and UConn and a few others of note.
Yeah, he was committed to Indiana. I think right now you're in the early stages of any kind of relationship there. Decommitted from Indiana. He's got to visit the UConn. UConn's going to have some open spots too now. That's going to be a pretty hot program, and they're going to be able to pick and choose some guys. It's going to have to be the right personality to play for Hurley, but he certainly had a lot of guys willing to do it, and the results on the court. And they're going to have a lot of guys drafted. I saw a mock draft that we can discuss later where Stephen Castle and Klingon were both top 10 players in that draft, in a mock draft. So on ESPN. But yeah, the prep guys, I think the first thing you want is experience. So I think the portal guys will be the top priority, and then you figure out any prep guys you might want to go after that. But we predicted when Alabama went to the Final Four, I thought Alabama was a really hot program before the Final Four. I thought Nate's the kind of guy, he pitches the program well, he sells the program well, and people like him. All the visits seemed to go exceptional. They had two McDonald's All Americans coming in, all that good stuff. But then the Final Four put them on the national stage because there was only four teams to watch. There's only two games to watch. So basketball kids that love the game were able to see them and get more exposure to them. But so far, I mean, nothing's been closed yet, other than they have got Houston Mallet. Um, they've got Chris Youngblood, two excellent gets, but nothing's been closed with the other portal guys. Nothing's been finalized with the Mark Sears, who declared for the draft, but said he could come back next year. I mean, come back, kept his options open to return to college, and Grant Nelson's been silent. So a lot of balls in the air, but a lot of good things possibly happening.
Yeah, if you could freeze what's left of the returning roster right now with Nelson, Stevenson, Reitzel, Sears, Diobati, even Wagi, to go along with what you've got committed from the portal in Mallet and Youngblood, to go along with the McDonald's All Americans in Darian Reed, Aiden Sherrill, and a very talented player in Nas Cunningham. I think even with Aaron Estrada moving on and the five guys that we know have hit the portal already from Alabama, you probably feel pretty good about that team right now. Obviously, another legitimate big would fit in well with that mix, but you're bringing in Cheryl too from the high school ranks.
Yeah, I mean, as is, you're right. This is a probably a top five roster as is right now. I mean, you say that you don't know what Arkansas is going to put together. I'm expecting Coach Cal to do a good job and get a lot of talent there. You don't know what Kentucky's going to do. You still don't know what UConn's going to do. You still have guys that hit the portal and guys out there. But yeah, Alabama has a top five talent team if you just lock it in right now. So anytime you got a top possible top five roster, and then you're adding, a guy with, the Cliff's got a ton of experience. He's been in
Yeah.
a ton of battles, and then you got a former five-star looking at you. I mean, you're living pretty well right now.
So, as we look ahead to the coming week, as we alluded to earlier, and by the way, we would certainly encourage you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel here. Turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our YouTube content as it drops. Closing in on 9,000 subscribers, Tim
Let's
Watts. We're
go.
hoping to hit 10,000 here pretty quickly. We certainly appreciate everyone who has already subscribed to the YouTube channel here. If you haven't, again, take the time, it would be appreciated as well. NFL draft coming up next week. And, we've got the 7 round mocks that are out there now. And, earlier,
Seven
a month,
rounds.
yes, wow. Earlier, probably a month ago or so, we set the over under for first rounders from Alabama for this draft at 3.5. And kind of the question mark at that time was Kool-Aid McKinstry. And then you come to learn about a foot injury, but then he rebounds at Alabama's pro day. but it seems like, Tim, it's pushing more towards that 4 number than the 3 number when you think about Kool-Aid and Dallas Turner and JC Latham and of course Terrion Arnold, who just in mock world seems like he continues to move up.
Yeah, I haven't heard a single question about Terrion. I mean, all the film they're looking at is, everything with them is breaking down. They went from breaking down the big things that were visible to all of us to breaking down the little things that, the guys really focus on with him. We said that about Kool-Aid. We said Kool-Aid, is he going to run a, 4.41? Probably not. But his film, which still has a lot of value when you're ranking and evaluating people, are really good. He goes out and competes with a hurt foot, which I think also helps. And then he hit the 4.5 mark. So we were discussing, anyways, before he hit the 4.5, that those teams at the bottom, they tend to stay at the bottom of the drafts because they get guys like Kool-Aid. They get guys like he can step in, help us for 4 years, 5 years minimum. We'll figure the rest out later. Those teams are easily the smartest. They're not always grabbing every shiny thing on the ground. And there's a reason they're mostly at the bottom year in and year out. But you've seen him. Dane Bugler does a good job for the Athletic. And hats off to anybody. I don't care who you are. If you're doing a 7-round mock draft, if you're an architect and just take the time to do that, hats off to you. That's quite the chore. I know people will probably hold it to you, but he's got Kool-Aid going to your Jags
He's got my Jags trading back from 17,
to
which is
get us
interesting.
to
But
get a starting corner.
if they can get an extra pick or two to go down to 28 from 17 and they still get a quality guy in Kool-Aid McKinstry, I'm good with that. Yeah, he's got him making a trade with the Bills. And it makes sense because the Jags and the Bills have already done some business, so to speak, or had some interaction in terms of
But
personnel.
look what you'd be getting back here. He's got you getting 28,
Yeah.
133,
Yeah.
144, and a second rounder in 2025 and Kool-Aid McKinstry.
I'm good with that. As I said,
So
I like the value of
absolutely.
that. Still getting a guy that you would probably covet there, but you said it, Brugler in his first round, where Alabama is concerned, Dallas Turner to Atlanta has kind of reached the point of being like Terrion Arnold to the Jags
Yeah.
at
It can't
17.
happen. It
It
can't
almost can't happen at
it
this
can't
point.
happen. Everybody cannot know the Falcons are drafted Dallas at 8. I kid, but also pretty serious. How could everybody in the world know Dallas was going at 8? The first mock had him at 8 from everybody almost. They've like worked in the UCLA edge and all that stuff a few times. But Dallas has been locked in at 8 to the Falcons. Can it actually happen?
Too sensible at this point. Number 11 in the first round in that spot. Dane has the Chargers taking JC Latham, I guess, involving a trade there. JC would be Alabama's first offensive player to go off the board. Then at 13, he has Terrion Arnold going to the Raiders. I think that would upset a lot of Jaguar fans right now because if the Jags sit at 17, it's a sense among that fan base that they would love to have Terrion in Duval, and then of course Kool-Aid at 28 if the Jags trade back in this scenario that Dane presents. So 3 picks in the first 13 in this mock from Alabama, Tim, and 4 in the first round.
Yeah, I mean it's status quo, right? I mean that's kind of been the way it is under Saban the whole time. You have two minimum, 5 maximum, always in that same area with the draft. It seems like so. Obviously an interesting draft with everybody projected to trade up with quarterbacks or take quarterbacks. So a lot of value. I mean Dallas Turner almost any other year without 4 quarterbacks projected in the top 5 would be going in the top 5. I mean
Yeah, Dane,
he put up similar to what Will did.
yeah, Dane's got the first 4 picks being quarterbacks in his mock.
I'm really curious to see with JJ McCarthy, either Jim Harbaugh tricked the world or everybody values him as much as he did because Harbaugh, who has the 5th pick, kept saying you're missing if you don't draft him. He's the best one in the draft. But I noticed that Harbaugh, he's going to get a lot of value by letting 4 quarterbacks go because he had the 5th pick, and I think there's some projected trades. But again, you get those quarterbacks out of the way. That 5th pick is whoever needs the big time running wide receiver, not running back, but wide receiver or whatever. Um, that's going to be their new number 1 pick.
Yeah, the Athletic 7 round mock. You get into round three, number 75 overall in round three, Chris Braswell to the Chicago Bears. This one might surprise some folks. At number 83 overall in round three, Jermaine Burton gets to go back to Cali, where he would, in this scenario, play for the Los Angeles Rams. I'll say this in this draft, Tim, as wide receiver heavy as it is, that's probably a round lower than he might be projected in a typical year, right? Because there
Yeah,
is a ton of quality at wide receiver. So if
it's
Jermaine
amazing.
Burton goes third round, that's pretty damn impressive.
Oh, absolutely. This is absolutely, I mean, again, I'm using absolutely a lot, but it is. It's a monster wide receiver group. It's not people reaching. I mean, you've got these guys. You got Rome from the, you got, I almost called him their old name. They got Rome. He's one of the top guys. Neighbors is one of the top guys from LSU. Marvin Harrison has been a staple. I'm not convinced that Neighbors isn't the best wide receiver in this draft. I mean, the more I watch him, the more I look at him. Harrison's great. Rome's great. Brian Thomas, Xavier
Yeah.
Worthy, Aiden Mitchell. I mean, you have so many guys. I mean, all looking at the first round, basically,
Mhm.
are getting consideration. I might be missing somebody. So, yeah, that would be a high pick for Burton. And I think he would be pretty happy with that.
Round six in the Athletic 7 round mock, Justin Aboigbe to the New York Giants, Will Reichard to the Detroit Lions. He might have an easy job there in Detroit because our guy doesn't go for a lot of fourth downs. At least, he doesn't like to kick field goals, but he might like to kick them better with Will. Especially, this would be great for Will. You go to a contender and you're kicking indoors in Detroit.
Yeah. And it'd be a fun team, right?
Yeah,
I mean, wouldn't you have fun? I mean, you go over there, those teams, they look pretty. You got a Bama flavor to it. Who do you have over there? You have Gibbs, you have
Ryan Branch.
Ryan Branch, you have Jameson. I mean, you got some guys who might be missing some people on the lines too, and a lot of talent. And he would fit right in. I mean, you saw. I mean, I was kind of questionable the head coach Campbell when I saw his interviews, but when I saw him on Hard Knocks or whatever the
Yeah, he
show is
won us
called now.
both over.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, he was amazing. He was I just thought he's a meathead saying, "Let's go drink your spit." You know what I mean? I thought he's one of those old school, but he was an awesome guy. The players reacted to him. They had a great season. So that would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, so early round, first round, four guys, middle rounds, a couple of guys, and then late rounds, a couple of guys from Alabama in Dane Brugler's 7 round mock for the Athletic. And I wanted to touch on the Washington guys too, because of course that's where Kalen DeBoer has spent his last couple of seasons doing some great work. According to the Athletic 7 round mock, you got Rome Odunze, the wide receiver, going number 9 overall to the Chicago Bears. And then I think this might surprise some folks because Michael Penix Jr., there seems to be in mock land anyway, this thought that he's a top 15 to top 18 pick. I think the Raiders actually pick 13th in the first round. I've seen him mocked there quite a bit, Michael Penix Jr., but a couple of first rounders for Kalen DeBoer's old team.
Yeah, I mean, that was to me, that's one of the most intriguing. Who's going to have more? I saw at least three going in the first round from Washington, right? Am I missing a fourth one? If Penix goes, that would be at least
Jalen
four, right?
Polk. Yeah.
Yeah, they got wide receivers. The injured wide receiver, that we talked about could sneak up in that second round. They had a lot of guys they liked. It's funny.
Roger Rosengarten, the tackle, Braylon
Hey,
Trice, the edge,
it's
Dominique
funny.
Hampton. Yeah.
Yeah, they got a lot of guys. I talked to somebody, and we love Jeremy. We love his name. We love what he could bring. All we've heard is good things about Jeremy Bernard. And I talked to somebody that said that out of those four, all NFL guys, that Jeremy was going to be second and not that far behind Rome when all's said and done. That's what the Washington staff expected. And that's not a slight against any of the other ones. That's just how much they think of Jeremy.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to track this with Alabama and Washington players in this draft, Tim, because I think you're going to have a real race in terms of total draft picks between the two. Because you look at this particular mock, Alabama with, again, I want to say 8 or 9 first rounders. And then from the Washington perspective, the couple of three guys that you're thinking about where the first round is concerned, but we talked about Polk and Rosengarten and Trice and Dominique Hampton, the safety, Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver, and then potentially 3 to 4 more in rounds 5 through 7 from UW. So
So are we expecting them to go to Kalen with every Alabama player and every Washington player? Are we expecting to get some uh some love from that? That would be interesting though. I mean, of course Saban's going to get the credit, but the Alabama head coach, is the head coach, so you should get
Saban's
some love.
working it for ESPN or one of the ESPN networks. So
Did you see
going to
the
be
picture of Saban with
Nick at Night coming up.
did you see the picture with Saban with facial hair? I've never had grown men react.
That may
I've
have been a
never
Miss Terry request,
I
you
thought it
know?
was an edit. I was like, is this for real? My boy
Yeah, I
growing
saw
up.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had so many guys sending me that. Like, dudes, no girls.
It's like the Righteous Gemstones episode where they get busted out in Vegas. Kids, that's CGI.
Yeah. But I thought it was awesome. I'm looking forward to Nick Saban doing the draft because you know how he scouted, and he played a lot of these guys, and you know how he recruited. So they probably
Yeah.
watched film on every one of these guys over the 4 years of their career. So it'll be
Well,
awesome.
that bunker of an office that Nick now has over at Bryant Denny Stadium, he's probably just locked himself in there for the next week and has all of his spiral notebooks and probably has the old school projector going in the dark in there, Tim, and just breaking down every tape of every kid, every player
I can
in
see it.
college football. Hey, you want to get into the mailbag?
Sure, let's do
Let's
it.
do it. We got some nice contributions once again right there on the round table. The T Watson TR mailbag. Always appreciate everyone contributing to that. Um, Boo AU checks in here first and says, curious about your thoughts on something around the transfer portal with kids jumping from school to school. Do you ever see the academic progress rate being either loosened or the penalties repealed? It's a good point because something like APR just gets totally forgotten about with what college athletics has become. It's almost a refresher to see this from Boo AU. I'm led to believe with where we're headed, this has become like professional sports. Not like it is. It's transactional. Uh, APR, RIP, I guess, is what I'm thinking at some point here, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know. The biggest concern for me, academics, and we ran into this early on when the portal, what were the kids that in their mind they know they're going in the portal, so they just quit going to class. I mean, we had guys, I still think Keishawn Butte would have transferred to Alabama had he stayed on top of his academics. He was pretty unhappy with LSU after Ed Orgeron left. But it's not the first one either. Guys will kind of like check out mentally. Like if I'm not playing football, I'm not going to go to class. We've heard that story and have to make it up. That's where you hear a kid's got to finish a class before he can transfer, or he's got to get some stuff done. There's been guys that were held back by academics, so I think they have to watch it. And hey, if you're the university you're leaving, you're not telling them to go to class so they can transfer,
Yep.
because if they're not eligible, guess what they can't do? They
Yep.
can't transfer. You're stuck there playing. So kind of like, that youth mentality. But yeah, the grades, they're all this effective, switching, and
There
I don't know the answer to that.
there
But
are built-in implications as far as kids jumping and APR, but you know, I think that had more to do with previously if it was more on the school side that a kid was essentially being cut. I don't know how you handle it now where you've got kids as early enrollees 3, 4 months later hitting the portal, right?
yeah.
Seems like another impossible aspect of all this. And I'll say this too. I think APR mattered to Nick Saban. I think that was something he was proud of. And to kind of see it go by the boards, so to speak, that was probably something else that he just in a throw your hands up kind of situation, maybe even impacted him somewhat from that perspective. Wobro here in the roundtable mailbag, Tim. How surprised are you that we've seen more transfer movement on the basketball team than the football team?
Well,
Curious your thoughts on why and if that will continue to trend that way.
it might seem that way in April, but it damn sure didn't feel that way in December and after Nick
They
Saban retired.
basically they basically flipped, right?
Well,
Because
Bama went
end of the
through
season.
Well, the thing about Bama, they again, we talked about this earlier. They went through two whole portals.
Yeah.
They went through two whole portals because you had pre-Saban and post-Saban. So there was just a ton of there. Not everybody. I think Washington and Arizona probably were in that same boat as the dominoes fell with the coaching search. But yeah, Michigan got away because of Alabama ran out of time to enroll people. Keon Saab, and he enrolled at the last. He had to be in school that last Friday before he enrolled on that Monday. So they got that dead period transfer wise academically to help them. But overall, I would say the football has been um, massively. To me, it's under when Saban left is when a lot of the surprises happened, right? That's when Caleb Downs, Proctor, and all them left. So we had two. You had one, you had to deal with the guys that were unhappy. Then you had two, Julian Sain and those guys that had NIL offers. And hey, that report came out that, what did it say? Ohio State spent $32 million on their football team, right? Did you see
Yeah.
that? So you
Yeah.
better win
Big
something.
money.
You better win it all. That going to the Final Four in the playoffs, that won't cut it. So you had all that happen. But I think basketball wise, nothing's been a surprise. All the guys that have been in the portal were kind of expected. We discussed this earlier, wanting bigger roles, wanting a different role. Ryland was the main one that was kind of on the fence, but we heard rumors of fun. Oddly enough, we heard Kansas the whole time. And he said, he sort of said, I want to win a national championship. And then behind the scenes, he said, and of course, Bama's a Final Four team at the time, but Kansas is a good spot to go if you're looking for a championship run, and probably got promised a bigger role too. I don't think Kansas has to do anything. Um, I don't think Kansas has to lie to a kid to get him on campus. I think Bill Self's kind of earned that reputation. But I do think football, it seems that way now because it's been quiet. Basketball's had more activity, but football overall just crushed it.
Yeah, the window for this portal for basketball is basically like the timing of it is like the portal was in January for football. You're coming off the end of a season. It's going to be pretty impactful at that point. And that's, I think, what you're also seeing as a part of that with hoops right now. Tide Hashira here in the Roundtable Mailbag ask, have either of you heard from Melvin Seahorse? I'm getting worried. Seriously, though, do you think rim shot, though, between, right? Do you think OT, offensive tackle, is going to be the position pushed for the hardest this recruiting cycle, whereas DB might be addressed more from the portal, Tim?
OTs push for the hardest. I think linebackers will be the hardest you push for in this recruiting cycle, right?
In
I know
about
that
two or three recruiting cycles, I
I
think.
know that's a running joke, but again, I think there's different roles. I mean, again, there's been talk Justin Hill, Javion Hilson. I'm drawing a blank, but the guys that Dawson Merritt, all those guys would be another linebacker, but they're Wolf. They're a linebacker, but they're not a linebacker like the other guys you're seeing with Luke Metz and Duke Johnson and all those guys, Jaden Harmon. It's a different kind of linebacker. But yeah, I think offensive line in general, I think, again, that's the biggest philosophy shift. Wouldn't you agree? Is the offensive line, right? It's not that Washington didn't have big guys, but even their big guys were little to Alabama's big guys. I mean, they have a 340 guy, and he was 25 pounds lighter than both Bama tackles. So I do think the philosophy changed there, and they've got some absolutely fantastic options that we've covered on the round table. Andrew Bone did a recent comprehensive list of some of the tackles. I had a post talking about the class that could be. But yeah, I think DBs in the portal sounds right for Todd Hashira, and then offensive line would be a priority in this class.
Yeah, for sure. I know you love you some Jackson Lloyd. So interested to see
Carmel
it.
by the Sea. And,
See
Big
how
Boy, hey, I got a video. Big Boy trying to stretch a hit. He plays baseball into an inside the park home run. Jackson Lloyd, your offensive
wow.
tackle, possible 5-star,
Aaron
getting a hit.
Judge, you know.
He was out. I hate to
Oh
ruin
well.
it.
Yeah,
It was right at, it
when
was
you're a
bang,
big
bang.
guy like that, you got to take your shot though.
It was a bang bang, and then the next thing I saw, he smoked one over the fence, so he didn't worry about. He could jog around the bases instead of
Yeah,
sprint.
if you're a big guy and you even have a shot at pulling off the inside the park, you got to make them throw you out at the plate. That's
And
just what you got to do.
you got to do it.
B underscore Rich here in the Roundtable Mailbag. Is it time to have a serious conversation about Coach Murphy and the direction of the softball program. He seemed more interested in the SEC storied on Bama softball than beating A&M this past weekend. It's been a struggle, and you could kind of see it coming with this team, especially post Montana Fouts. Now, Caleb Ever's been pretty damn good. Just don't have yet, anyway. I think Brisky, the freshman, there's potential there, but pitching depth now in the SEC, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you could pretty much get through it with just a one. Now you need that kind of depth. They don't seem to have it. They're solid in terms of positional players. Are they at that elite level that we had grown accustomed to seeing year in and year out for Alabama softball? Probably not. Is it time to call Pat Murphy and to Greg Burns' office and perhaps talk about a separation of ways? No, we're not. I don't think so. I think Murph has earned the right at this point. Talk to me when this program goes at least a couple of 3, 4 years without a trip to Oklahoma City. Then okay, maybe we can have that discussion. But for now, yeah, I'm not gonna gloss it over. I mean, it's disappointing, and it's not getting any easier in a league like the SEC, as we see in baseball too. You don't get any off weekends, and when you have opportunities at home to close out series like the A&M series, you have to do it. And so it's not what we're used to for sure with Alabama softball. Tex Tighter, he wants to know, Tim, is there now a T. Watts curse when it comes to picking the Masters?
There's a curse at Dustin Johnson because he sucked. I mean, my guy, what is going? If that was an NBA plus and minus, he would have been like in the All-Star game plus 12.
Look, he had company, but at least Tiger made the cut.
Tiger
That
made the cut. Like, what was he plus
uh,
one or something? What was Tiger at?
oh, Tiger was. I think Tiger ended up maybe plus 15 when it was all said and done, but he
Yeah,
played 4 rounds.
but I was
He
about
was
to say
there all
after
week.
two. Yeah, Dustin was
Yeah,
on a
no, DJ was
Dustin was on a plus 27 pace. Let me put it in
DJ was
perspective.
he was ready to get back to Jupiter
I got
down
to.
there.
I'm gonna have to research that a little more. I can't trust that Netflix showed to make my picks.
No, no, you got to work on that.
I should have known it when I looked up and I couldn't find him on the odds to win it. My dude was
Nick
in the field. He was in the field with me.
Nick Saban neighbor these days down there in Palm Beach County, Dustin Johnson. I think
Nick could
he'll.
have beat him in the Masters too. Terrible.
Oh, they would have shown Nick more. Some of those live guys playing in the Masters, it was like Cam Smith was top 10, and I don't think you hardly saw him all weekend. You damn sure didn't see Patrick Reed, and he's a former champ. You know, that's
They just not showing him because of the politics of it, or what?
I think that's got something to do with it. Yeah. The Augusta National Golf Club, they have some say into that broadcast, I think. But I'll say this too. They still invite guys from Live. Some of those obviously as defending champions. I think the thing is with the Masters, as a defending champ, you can keep coming back and playing every year in the tournament until you're 70. I think that's the age cap that they finally put on it. So, Mid South Bama here in the mailbag. Has Bama started using the microphone in the helmets during practice? Yes, they did, Mid South. We heard from Kalen DeBoer actually early in spring drills that there was actually a supply and demand issue because now you've got colleges using the technology in the helmet and connecting the play caller to the quarterback to the middle linebacker on defense that there apparently wasn't enough to go around. But Tim, I guess we're going to miss the card people over there on the sideline with a lot of these teams, right? Because
Yeah,
that was a staple of college football for a long time.
they annoyed me. I just got a tweet on a side note that Demoy Kennedy has re-entered the NCAA transfer portal, and
Wow.
that gives Colorado 15 per our Pete Nakos in the portal, and that's not counting Cormani McLean.
Surprise
So
level that Cormani hit the portal for Tim Watts.
none,
Zero,
zero.
sub
Yeah,
zero.
I just don't. I never thought that was a great fit. Bama people were saying, like, when they were looking to, like, excuse, him not having a good year, they were saying he didn't get good coaching. But we know his DC was Charles Kelly, right? I mean, we know his DC's got a pretty good reputation, did a pretty
Yeah.
good job at Alabama, has always had people talk about him. And he's also a secondary guy. So he had some coaching. It's not like Dion was back there saying backpedal just because Dion can't coach DB because he just was naturally a defensive back, right? It's like Jordan screaming, run, jump higher. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? To BJ Armstrong. Dion was so natural, but Charles Kelly's a good coach. I mean, he's universally liked, but just a side note, 15 and it's going to be 16 at least in the portal. And I can't remember how many they brought in and out last year. So
Yeah.
that's not going. That's not
It's
going
it's been guys
well.
too that you thought would be impactful, like McLean and a running back that they brought in from Houston in the
Des Moines
transfer
Kennedy,
portal.
Des Moines
Yeah.
Kennedy, you would have thought had a chance there. And don't forget, they got Jordan Seaton, a 5-star. I think he was a
Offensive
5-star
tackle.
offensive tackle that Alabama was involved with. So, um, you know,
I
Georgia
think
ended up.
this is a very interesting year for Prime and obviously Colorado, but in terms of his big picture uh, viability as a college football head coach, I still have no reason to think he won't be successful. Um, but the honeymoon period at a place like Colorado should be extended because it is Colorado, right? It's not like he's at Alabama or Ohio
No.
State or Georgia. So there's still very much that appreciation level that CU has
And
for Prime.
he had inherited a mess. And
It
don't
was a
forget that
mess, but
that
what what improvement will we really see from
and
Colorado?
through
Now,
4 games.
Shadur's great, but what else will there be?
Well, what's there going to be after, because of that? I will say, if I'm a Colorado fan, I'm appreciative of those first 4 games last year when the excitement level was at an unbelievable high. You remember they were ranked and they
Yeah,
were doing all that, and they're showing me, I got to see his watch all the time. It's pretty cool. And then Dan Lanning just went out and plastered them, and
that was that.
yeah, that was the end of that. We never see any more watches. I
Yeah.
think it got stolen, in fact,
Oof.
at one point at the
Yeah,
Rose
that was
Bowl.
at the
Remember they
Rose
got
Bowl against UCLA. They got
yeah, they
robbed.
got robbed. The players got robbed. So,
Oof, it's
all right.
brutal.
Anyway, sorry for the side note, but it was Alabama related with Des Moines.
Hey, something else I wanted to ask you about, and we do. We thank everyone for checking in to the roundtable mailbag. And we do have one more, by the way. Bama Fins one here in the mailbag. Okay, who on offense and defense wins the first Leon Black brought the Ruckus Award from A Day? The Ruckus bringers on offense and defense, Tim, from the A Day game.
I feel like Justin was one of those guys, right? I think he was physical, sideline to sideline.
Okoronkwo, yeah.
Yeah, getting. I'm just calling him Justin O. He's like Jackie
Justin,
O's
okay.
nephew. Well, it's
Yeah.
like Jackie O. If they called her Jackie O, I'm calling him Justin O. I think that'll be a popular name down the road. But he sideline to sideline, down the field, out of position, just chasing. Not his responsibility, I should say, but still chasing the ball down. I thought he was excellent.
On
Very,
defense,
very,
hard to
very active.
disagree. Very active. How does he not end up with number 0? Do you think maybe Deontay Lawson saw that potentially coming and
Yeah,
jumped on 0? Because, I mean, that fits Okoronkwo about 3 different ways with that last name.
yeah. I mean it. Yeah, I think Deontay just called seniority on that one, right? He just said
Well, I
that
mean,
number's
it's
that.
NIL era. He probably told Justin, if you want to buy it,
Yeah,
we can talk some business for sure.
that's true.
Offense brought the ruckus. I mean, I guess I would go with a guy like Tyler Booker there because the run game I think was as impressive as anything else for what we saw from the offense. What about Jeremy Bernard, perhaps?
Yeah,
Jam Miller. Got
yeah.
some candidates from that perspective.
I think Jam and Jeremy. I mean, Jeremy, because we hadn't seen him. Jam, we've always known what Jam could do. We've seen it in spurts, but boy, he sure looked like an NFL first round pick almost. You know what I mean? Big, strong, between the tackles. I know they weren't hitting hard. Now Malachi, again, I go back to like, hey, we're not hitting hard, and Malachi not getting the memo. He didn't do it again. I'm sure they're like, hey, relax. But I did like the intensity of 2 upperclassmen banging heads there for a minute.
Got to set some kind of tone, man. Can't go out there and just get Pro Bowl. You got to have some pride. I get it. Even if they tried to tone you
I'll
down
tell
a
you
little
this,
bit.
I just feel like it was stacked against the defense tasting any steak that night.
Hell,
I just
it
like
was incredibly stacked.
I'm hoping the offense like broke them off a piece. Those were huge steaks. You know what I
Some
mean?
gristle,
I
at
will
least
tell
a
you
little
this:
gristle.
people sleep on beanie weenies when they're done right by someone that
Yeah.
should. I used to
That
eat them
put
out
some
of
love into them. You got to put
yeah,
love
when they
into them.
yeah, but even as a kid, you loved them, right? Before everybody started
Not
telling
really.
you what?
I did not like beanie weenies, dude. Now you could
That's
give me
got
some SpaghettiOs. That
that's that
was
that's that Bulls
SpaghettiOs.
thing.
I would hammer.
That's that Bulls thing, though. I'm talking about mortals. I'm
Oh
talking about
yeah.
mere mortals. We pulled the
Oh, what you talking about, man?
Vina
We got
sausage,
we got
potted
SpaghettiOs
meat.
without the meatballs. We
Yeah,
didn't
but
get
look what I said.
meatballs in our
When I said
SpaghettiOs.
buying the sausage, you just like gagged a little. You're like, wait a minute.
Ramen, you know.
I don't get
Yeah.
ramen. I don't trust ramen. It's too cheap. They need to up it $2 for me to eat it. That does not. I feel like that's processed. I feel like they're. I mean, it tastes fine, but I feel like maybe they're pulling one over. It's too cheap. Up the price.
Oh, no, no. Vienna sausages, things like
Potted
that.
meat. Yeah,
Potted meat. Yeah,
bologna.
devil's ham.
That's
Used to eat
before.
that stuff.
That's before
Oof.
every jackass started telling you what was in everything. You know.
Best thing about the arrival of the microwave, and I'm not old or anything, I'm talking about the microwave coming into existence, is that you could just slap that American cheese between those two slices of bread or just on one slice of bread and you were good.
Yeah.
Throw that thing
Good
in
to
there
go.
for about 30 seconds. Lunch is served. Hey, Tim, something else I was going to ask you about today, because you're our senior NBA analyst here on T Watts and TR. But relative to the NCAA tournament, you can have one for the rest of your life with the play-in aspect now of the NBA playoffs to go along with the more traditional approach that we've seen in the past and the NCAA tournament. You can only have one though. Which way are you going?
I mean, now it's definitely the NCAA tournament. But 4 years ago, 4 years ago, we're having a different
Pre-Nate.
discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having. I mean, because now even in the NBA playoffs, though, you have Herb Jones, you have Keon Ellis just absolutely playing a great game to eliminate Golden State. I don't know how many NBA fans we've got. I know we got some on the board. I'll tell you what we got. We got a lot of NBA opinions. We don't have that many NBA fans, is what I've noticed. We got
Social media followers like
we got
myself.
opinions. Dude,
Yeah.
they're still dumbasses saying Zion's fat. Like literally the
He's
guy
just a
plays
large human, man.
he's a big dude. He had a great year. He's injured now, but he played 71 of 83 games. Went out the other day in a great game. But with Bama related, you had Noah Clowney coming on at the end of the year, which kind of went quiet because it's kind of like bringing up your AA player for the last 2 weeks on a losing team. But he was coming on. Keon Ellis was fantastic the other night against Golden State. And again, you know, defensively we expected, but offensively he's aggressive. He stuffed the stat sheet. Trying to pull up his stat. He had 5 assists. He had 4 rebounds. He had 3 blocks, 3 steals. 3 blocks, three
Yeah.
steals on top of that 15 point. And of course, we got Herb, who I am really going to be irritated if he doesn't make first team all defense.
It's going to bother you.
That pisses me off. That seems to be how is the defensive teams a popularity contest?
Yeah, that
Like,
should be
like,
where
like the whole league is telling you Herb Jones. If Paul George is telling you he's a monster, if
yeah.
Greg Popovich, he literally said, I told my guys, if Herb is on you, pass the ball. Greg Pop said that. What else in the world would you like to hear?
Would have liked to seen Herb on some of those really good Spurs teams with Pop.
No, he'd have liked it. Yeah, he'd have
That
liked
would
it
have
too.
worked
Now
out
they
pretty
had
well.
Kawhi. They had Kawhi, who's a hell of a
Yeah,
defender.
Kawhi, he
No,
could get it done.
yeah, but yeah, the NBA. If I had to choose, I mean, now there's no way I'm missing the. I mean, you got me in full emotions from the Final Four.
Tara Whittle checking in here. Y'all got to get your hands on some pork roll from New Jersey. Best breakfast meat ever. I mean, if it's pork, it's for
All
me.
right, yeah, I got to
Not so
figure
much
out
my
where to. Yeah,
cardiologist, but
Tara's got to help us figure out where to get it.
yeah, in
We got to
Jersey.
figure it out. I order from Cat's
Well, it's
Deli, New York.
probably the butcher from The Sopranos. Satriale's is
We
probably where
order
you can
now.
get
We
some
order
pork
stuff
roll.
from around. We order stuff from around the country. That Gold Belly.
Yeah.
This is not a commercial, but Gold Belly will bring it to you at a reasonable price. We get Maine lobster, we get Baltimore crab when it's
Wow.
seasonal. Yeah, we like to like when it's seasonal. If we can't get there, we like to bring it to
They
us. But
even they're even able to get it up that big hill all the way up there to
it's a it's not a
Casa de
big.
Watts. I mean,
It's really a incline the whole way. It's not far to the top, but it's the fact that it's always going up.
the
It's fun going.
Graceland of Alabaster,
It's
they're able to
fun go.
get it
It's
through the
fun going
gates and
down.
everything.
It's fun
Oh,
going down. Coming up, dragging trash cans. Not so much.
Tara says she'll send us a
Thank
link.
you.
We can count on Tara.
Yes,
And
she's
with that,
good.
Tim, I think our work here is done for the latest edition of T Watts and TR. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Also, going to be available to you in podcast format. Thanks for all the great input in the Bama Online Roundtable mailbag. The comments also here on the program as well. And again, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. You'll get all of our YouTube content as it drops. And of course, you want to catch up with this guy right here: Tim Watts, Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, Charlie Potter, Clint Lamb, Jimmy Stein, and myself, BamaOnline.com.
And reminder, tomorrow we do have the quad box.
We're going to have Quad Box
Quad
on
box,
Friday.
Travis, the quad
Recruiting
box. Joseph,
roundup.
Andrew, Travis,
Yes.
myself.
Yeah.
We'll cover some recruiting, see how
Yeah.
that Aiden Holloway visit's going, who's coming in for officials. We got a nice list for you. And again, we appreciate y'all, but please like and subscribe. Travis's hats aren't free. We got to get to
No.
10,000 so we can keep him in his
Yeah.
hats.
I mean,
So,
I won't get reimbursed for any of these hats until we
no,
get to
I
10,000. I
can't
mean,
afford to reimburse them.
you, you
I can't
I
eat
mean,
pork rolls and buy your
well,
hats. We're going to have to make choices.
Champy's fried chicken, though,
Yeah, Champions is something else though. I got to start getting. I might get them on here as a commercial. They know they don't have to pay me because
right. Why should
That's
they
what I'm gonna
pay?
say.
Yeah.
I'm
All
already
right.
giving it away for free, but
That's okay.
appreciate all you people, guys and gals. I'm gonna say guys, but then I'm gonna include the girls because the girls get that. We got
Tara,
some.
at least.
Tara's great. We got female posters on the round table who are
Kathy.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Nothing's funnier when they announce they're a female in the middle of some awkward moment and the poster's backpedaling.
Our guy Ben
Uh-oh.
Dover, he wants the autograph edition of the hat. I don't know. I don't, like I said, that devalues the hat if any of us sign it. So we'll maybe just work on
Let
the hat.
alone 6 of us.
I know, right?
But
I
Charlie
know.
Potter's value, his autograph, because it's going to be so rare, would bring it back up.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. For Tim Watts, Travis Reier, thanking you for joining us right here on the program. Until next time, so long, everybody.